Good. Welcome everyone. Please, you're in the right place for our lightning talks. We are really excited to have these speakers here today to provide us with our lightning talks, equipping students with skills essential for future success. These speakers have come from a wide range of backgrounds and programs, but they all have programs that are equipping students with skills that are going to be critical, and all the more critical with the situation we are facing now. So I want to welcome everyone. I want to give a shout out to our chat moderator, Catherine Nelson. We have a chat on the right there. You'll see if you're viewing our session, and that chat is where we would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear any questions or comments for our speakers as we go. Once we go, we're going to be moving. Each speaker is going to speak for about 6 or 7 minutes, or team of speakers, because we have one team going. And so pay attention, keep track of your questions, put them in the chat, and we'll be keeping track of the questions. And then we'll have a Q&A after the first set of 3 speakers in about 20 to 25 minutes. So we'll have 3 speakers, a short Q&A, and then another 3 speakers. Okay, so it's going to be an exciting, fast-moving session. So please, go ahead. Hello, Leslie. Nice to see you, Josiah. Noah, welcome. Great to see you here. So welcome to everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Schools of Ken's first ever virtual forum. And this is our opening session, our lightning talks. Very glad to have you here. Welcome, Catherine. Okay. So I'm going to introduce our first set of 3 speakers so that they can get the show on the road. We are going to have, first up is going to be Corey Mohn, Executive Director with Blue Valley CAPS and the CAPS Network. Corey is going to talk about building connective tissue to tap your massively transformative purpose. That seems like a lot. Pay attention. Corey's going to take us down that road. He's going to talk about connecting nodes of innovation to hit the true tipping point for experiential learning in K-12 education. Right after Corey is going to be Sarah Pidgeon, Director of Programs with Solar One, paving the way to green careers in New York City. And Solar One's doing some amazing work, working with school and industry partners to create career pathways leading to high-paying, clean energy jobs. And I think everyone is pretty cognizant of the need for clean energy right now. So she's going to talk about their training and certification programs. And if you've noticed, the theme of our conference, education and employment, is all of these talks relate to this, and certainly Solar One's efforts are very, very relevant to that. Our third speaker of the first session, the first set, is going to be the Greater Lawrence Technical School team. We are really excited to have such a great team from Greater Lawrence. Their talk is Global Solve Now, Project-Based Learning from a Distance. Teachers and students from the STEAM and Innovation Academy Greater Lawrence are going to describe challenges and successes from their transdisciplinary project-based work that includes teacher and student collaboration, choice, a lot of great stuff going on. And also there is a link there to clean energy that you are going to see. That team is Panayoto Athenelis, Marla Hildebrand-Chai, Caroline McCullough, Patty Giampa, Tim Jones, Anderlyn, and Jennifer Payano, and Angelin Espinoso, the students. So a big welcome to all of our first speakers. And I want to welcome Corey to our stage. And I'm gonna drop off the screen, but Corey's gonna take it away. Corey, you're very welcome.
Awesome, thank you, Roger. Such a pleasure to be here with you today as part of the Schools That Can conference. It'd be certainly an honor to be in New York with all of you, but given the circumstances, you get to connect with me. I'm sitting in my basement in Kansas City, so welcome to everyone. I wanted to spend just a little bit of time at the beginning of this lightning round session, lightning talk session, to get us thinking kind of big picture about 3 things. One is how we view where we want our students to be going forward in terms of their work, their career, their employment. What do we truly want for them? Then talking about how do we expand our horizon and look beyond our own individual program or school or classroom in order to make that possible. And then third, I'm going to leave you with a question about what we truly want with our experience and how we leverage what we want to do. So to start, there was a study that was done years ago that looked at individuals and kind of their view of what was happening in their career, or in their employment rather. And this is a study that's been referenced in a couple of different books. One of them, The Happiness Advantage by Sean Akur, is a very good read, a scientist from Harvard who's given TED Talks and has dug deep on the science of happiness. But it got to the point where in the survey, the results were coming in and it broke things out, broke people out into three different categories. One was a set of people, a rather large set of people who viewed their employment as a transactional relationship, meaning I clock in, I do a certain amount of work, I get paid, and then I take that paycheck and clock out and go spend my money doing the things I actually enjoy doing because I don't really enjoy doing that work. There was another set of people, another decently sized group of people who were in something that that you could consider a career, which was a little bit more involved. It was the idea that I do care a bit about this work. I do care about bettering myself and moving up the chain to kind of become a better professional. But when the time came to retire, for example, these folks typically would retire and go and do other things after their career was over. There was also a very small sliver of the population that were deemed to be in something called a calling, which meant that, for example, if I were in that same situation, I got to the point of retirement, I would likely take a little bit of time for myself to refresh, maybe travel, do some other things. But a funny thing would happen. I would end up coming back and doing the same kind of work, but do it without being paid. I do it as a volunteer. And these are the kinds of people, I would put myself in this category, many of you probably in this category, where you love getting up and doing what you do. And that's what we want for our kids. So I represent CAPS, which is a profession-based learning model. We have students working as consultants to our business and nonprofit communities, working real projects for various professionals in the community. And we use that as our lens to give students that possibility, that idea of figuring out what their calling really is. So that's the first thing I want us to think about is how do we get more of our students to a place of calling through experiential learning? The second is this idea of getting beyond our borders, getting beyond our own brands. And I want you to think about how do we go big building community? Another book I'm going to reference is Bold by Peter Diamandis. Peter is the co-founder of the X Prize. And in this book, Bold, he talks about the idea of building DIY communities, do-it-yourself communities. And the idea behind a DIY community is that you are finding a group of people that share something called a massively transformative purpose, or an M. So who is out there beyond your own employer, beyond your own organization, beyond your own school, beyond your own region, that shares part of that purpose that you have, that drives you, that leads you to what is your calling? And how do you tap those individuals to build your own network? And the other language that I love that he uses is this idea of building living bridges. So how do you connect these nodes of innovation, these people that share part of your purpose? How do you build a living bridge that has connective tissue that allows you to flex and become stronger, to access people who are outside of your normal realm, to move forward on something that you care deeply about, that is your calling? And that's something that we do personally and professionally with CAPS through something that we built called the CAPS Network. The idea that we have affiliates and programs in all parts of the country, and in fact in other countries now as well, because we know that there's innovation, there are new ideas and experiments happening that we can learn from if we are bound together by a shared purpose. So what does that mean for you and your program going forward? The final thing I would ask, this is a question to you, is to ask yourself, what is the educational payoff for connectivity or of connectivity? So connecting to others, getting outside of your own brand, it takes time, it takes energy, you've got to be committed to it. So what's the payoff? If I'm going to spend that much time and energy, what's the payoff for me and my program to do that? And I will just tell you from our program what we have garnered in terms of a profession-based learning model. We have developed professional partnerships through this connectivity, projects for students to work on from national and international brands, because we're bigger than any one school district. One single school district or one single classroom trying to get an international company to partner, it's going to be really hard. But if you're able to leverage others, you are now multiplying your capacity and your brand awareness to make that happen. How do you raise post-secondary awareness, right? That's another reason we do this, to get the colleges and universities to understand what's going on. Student-to-student connections. So how do students work together and find their peers in other parts of the country? And finally, alumni. How do we keep tabs and energize the people that have been a part of our programs to come back and add value going forward? So what is the educational payoff to your connectivity? This event is a great opportunity for you to find other like minds. I would welcome you to connect with me after this event. I'm going to post my contact information in the chat. If you have any interest in what we're up to, or do you think we would be interested in what you're up to, we would love to connect with you. This is all about getting students to purpose and to calling. And I know that we're going to change the world and pivot education. And I appreciate the time with you today. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. Just gonna share my screen really quick. So just a quick reminder that I am sharing a presentation, and if you double click on the presentation window, it'll maximize the video so you can actually see the small type on the slides. So thanks so much for having me here today at the Schools of Ken Forum. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about the nonprofit that I work for, which is called Solar One. We are a New York City-based nonprofit organization. We also run programs in Newark, New Jersey as well, and a little bit across New York State. So Solar One, as I said, is a nonprofit. We have 3 major programs that we run. The first one is called Here Comes Solar, which is all about increasing accessibility to solar. So we help affordable housing providers and also renters get access to low cost and clean renewable energy. We also have a green workforce training program based out of Long Island City, Queens, where we actually train folks in carpentry, green construction, electrical, energy efficiency, and solar installation. And the big focus of that program is to prioritize training for folks who are under and unemployed, folks who have been impacted by the justice system, and generally folks who really need help getting access to jobs, which is sort of the theme of what I want to talk to you all about today. Finally, our K through 12 program is called the Green Design Lab, and I want to talk specifically about 2 of our high school programs that we offer. One is the Green Career Exploration Summer Program. In New York City, that's part of something called Career Clue, and in Newark as well, we offer that. And then our Solar Career and Technical Education Program. So our Solar Career and Technical Education Program, we work with students who are in CTE tracks or at vocational schools studying electrical, engineering, and construction trades, and we provide a hands-on hard skills training focused on solar installation, and we do that in partnership with 13 schools. We also have the summer program, our Green Career Program, where we blend industry engagement with different green career professionals, hands-on STEM activities, service learning projects, and it's a really unique summer opportunity that targets 14 and 15-year-old youth who aren't always able to access other full-time jobs. So these programs are really critical to our mission because it's really important to us that we are preparing youth for the jobs of the future that will really help to ensure we can fight the climate crisis. So here in New York City specifically, there's been a lot of exciting work going on with Local Law 97 and the climate, different climate acts that have been kicked off here in the city that are leading to thousands of jobs in the energy sector. And it's really important to us that we ensure that New York City's youth have access to all of those jobs. So we're moving beyond just thinking about climate science in a classroom, but really preparing youth with the skills they need and the training they need to actually access those careers. So that leads to a little bit of some of our best practices. I was trying to think, okay, I have 6 to 7 minutes here. What can I share about Solar One that would be helpful for other educators and helpful for other school communities? So one thing we really focus on is prioritizing accessibility. So for the summer, that means that we provide either wages or stipends. And in some cases in the Career Clue program, we're actually able to provide academic credit by collaborating with high school science teachers. We provide programs that are multilingual. And like I mentioned earlier, we're also getting opportunities for students to participate in industry certification training. That could mean OSHA, it can mean NABCEP, which is the nationally recognized solar industry certification. So this makes a really big difference in ensuring that, like I said earlier, that all of our students in New York City have access to these growing, high-paying clean energy jobs. Another thing, and I want to, reference back to something that Corey said actually in his talk, which is that partnerships are really important. For one school to go out and get a ton of different partners, especially industry partners, can be challenging. But like I said, with our career and technical education program, we're working with 13 schools in the city. It's actually every school that has an electrical program. And we're able to do things like organize an annual Solar Career Expo, where this year we are on track to have 30 solar installation companies ready to come and meet our high school students and take their resumes and talk about internship and job opportunities. So I really want to encourage folks to partner as much as possible. We also partner quite a bit with community-based organizations. We really focus on how we can connect students in our programs to the communities where their schools are and the communities where they live, and help to build partnerships with schools and those organizations. So always thinking about how we can connect people to each other and leverage each other's expertise and skills. We also wouldn't be able to do this without working collaboratively with city agencies. So the reason we're able to provide stipends and credit in the summer is because we have a great relationship with the New York City Department of Education. So the final thing I'll say before I wrap up is that we, as we all have been having to do, we've been working really hard to figure out what's the best way to adapt to the COVID-19 crisis. And just some things that have helped us to think about. One big one is that our summer program, so we're going to actually act as a virtual remote summer internship site. And again, leverage our relationships with the clean energy industry to still have guest speakers, career panels, real world projects, but then we'll also be able to continue to provide support and management and working with the students on a daily basis remotely. Blending virtual programs with independent projects, collaborating with organizations that provide wraparound services. This is really critical. Again, we can't all do everything. So we partner with traditional summer youth employment providers who can do things like get laptops to kids who need them and help ensure that students have access to food and whatever services they need to have a successful program. And finally, share best practices and stay in touch with partners. I have talked to so many organizations that I've worked with in the city over the past few months, and we are learning so much from each other. So I encourage you all to reach out to me and let me know if you ever want to connect. Just talk about different strategies for helping students and each other through this crisis and making sure that we're still preparing youth for all of these new green careers in the future. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Global Solve Now Lightning Talk. My name is Panayota. I'm from the STEAM Innovation Academy at Greater Lawrence Tech in Massachusetts, where we do career and technical education in a non-traditional way. We fully integrate our career area and academic classes, which are typically kept separate in secondary CTE. We typically do this in a project-based hands-on approach, but with the abrupt shift to remote learning, we've had to rethink how to continue providing students with this type of learning. So I'm happy to be here with the teaching team from the STEAM Innovation Academy, Caroline, who teaches ELA. She should be coming up on the screen in a sec. Patty, who teaches math. Tim, who teaches history. There he is. And Marla, who teaches life sciences. We also have two of our grade 11 students here, Anderlyn Espinoza and Jennifer Payano. Marla, tell us a little bit about the Global Solve Now project.
To work that we did in 2019 with our students where they grew large quantities of algae to create biofuel. 7 of these students continued the work and entered and won the Lexus Eco Challenge Air and Climate competition. This was really exciting for us. They got media attention, and then they were contacted by a student at Cornell called Jack Waxman. He is no stranger to change. He works for Senator Chuck Schumer, and he's currently making a video change COVID-19 and carbon emissions. So he enlisted our students as sort of renewable resource experts. So this was super exciting, and we all got together and we were like, why can't we make this project for our entire 11th grade class? If I could have the next slide, Tim. Please, thank you. So this became Global Solve Now. We asked the, okay, come up with an issue around climate change and COVID-19, develop a message in any way that you see fit that you are passionate about, and figure out how you're going to get your message out there to create change. Next slide, please. So with this project, we kind of went from this, scrambling to try to do distance learning back to our project-based learning roots, and we provided student choice. The kids had a series of different ways that they could get involved. We sort of thought this as casting a series of nets in order to get as many students as possible integrated into the program. Multiple projects they could choose, multiple outcomes that could happen. Bottom of the slide where it says, what is the Global Solve Now challenge? That was one way we cast these nets. So this was a live slideshow. We posted messages, we posted assignments, we posted student work that they could do. On the top, you can see the change slides. That is student work. Ask me about that in the Q&A. It was a huge point of student engagement. Next slide, please. On the following slide, you'll see our online software learning platform called Lift.
The green dots represent work handed in. On the left, you can see my complete failure to engage students in distance learning. On the right, this shows 2 weeks into Global Solve Now, how many students were engaged in the project. I'm going to hand this over to Patty.
Thanks, Marla. There were a lot of opportunities in the remote learning setting. First, daily collaboration. So we now have flexibility to carve 30 to 40 minutes out of our day for Zoom meetings. And this helped a ton with student outreach and managing multiple entry points. So we were always reviewing student work, looking at who was in, who wasn't in yet, what students might be stuck, and we could strategize ways to move them forward. Maybe it was a new assignment, something new to do. Maybe it was a new resource to spark an idea. Or maybe it was reaching out to small groups of students or individual students directly. And we could divide and conquer and help each other with this. We sent messages to students through multiple formats that if you hadn't started this project yet, it wasn't too late, and jump in at any point. Find an assignment of interest to you. You do not have to go back to the beginning. And then this helped engagement throughout the entire process. We saw that with the physical classroom wall now gone, that our interdisciplinary work could be even more seamless and more fluid. And we were very open-minded and flexible about this. So we started off focusing on enrichment and engagement. We trusted in the idea that we had this real, diverse, authentic problem. We knew there was a role for all the disciplines. Exactly how and when each would be more meaningful to students. Well, we were willing to work that out as we went through the project. To you, Tim.
You know, in thinking about being open and engaging the disciplines as they became apparent, the project, I was not initially involved at the beginning of the project. The students used math to communicate with the audience. Change makers were that students might contact and how to actually enact the changes. And so I hopped in a couple of weeks after the project began to offer a new lens so that students could use history and civics to continue to work on their problem and to make the kinds of changes that they want to make with ideas that they developed in other areas. And so that'll take us to Ms. Matala.
So then when we were thinking about takeaways for you, there are a couple big themes that came up, and I have some questions for you to think about. So the first is building on background knowledge. Is there a new development in a topic that students have already shown curiosity in? Bringing in outside experts. Are there any real world experts you could bring into your projects right now, especially given travel is not an issue anymore? Being persistent. What systems can you create to follow up with each and every one of your students? Flip the script. This is probably the most important one. It's the main premise of project-based learning. How can students still learn by doing, even in this remote environment? As the ELA teacher, I'm still asking students to jump right into writing, to learn through writing their Instagram posts, interviews, op-eds, etc., however they're spreading their message, and using the authentic feedback from our real world experts, as well as their own reflection on the messages they're getting back to teach them about persuasive language. And finally, remain open and curious. Who could you reach out to in other disciplines? Where do you see interdisciplinary opportunities in your daily life? Our world is made of these interdisciplinary opportunities, and I'm inspired every day. Thank you so much. We can't wait to hear your questions. We're really lucky to have Anderlyn Espinoza and Jennifer Payano, two of our exemplary students who are doing amazing work right now on this project. They're going to be here to help answer questions too, and we look forward to talking to you also in our booth later today.
Okay, thank you very much, Greater Lawrence. Appreciate that. Thank you for questions that have come up. I've seen a few but please add your questions in there. We're going to make a very brief Q&A since we're a little bit behind our schedule to make sure we have time for all our speakers. So just going to be a couple minutes and hit some of the top questions. I saw a question for Greater Lawrence. How do you motivate students who are not internally engaged, not engaged with what you're trying to do? How do you motivate them?
So I can start on this and you guys can jump in. I mean, this was a really tough one for us. We sort of tracked down almost single student by single student. We offered a lot of opportunities for them to choose something that didn't have anything to do with climate change or COVID-19. For example, the Changemaker slide I showed you, we just said, find someone who has a message, find someone who has created change. And for example, Nate picked Meek Mill, who is a rapper, but then the next he donated masks along with another rapper to the prison system. So then Nate was like, oh wait, I want to study COVID-19 in the prison system. So it by keeping it super open, allowing them to pick any way in, it just naturally worked out, and that really helped engagement.
Great. Anyone else want to add to that real quick?
Yeah, I think just in this remote learning time, it's given me the opportunity to work individually with students in a way that isn't often possible in the classroom because you're trying to manage other students while you're talking individually to one kid. So really taking this opportunity to build that one-on-one relationship is helpful in finding where their passions are.
Mm-hmm. Great. Quick question about rubric building. How does rubric building occur? How are the interdisciplinary instructions constructed for projects in PACA? So just, we don't have much time, but if you want to just say briefly, well, I can say they're going to be in a booth after this, so that's going to be a great chance to ask questions to the Greater Lawrence team. So everyone go to their booth, but just a quick word about rubric building.
We didn't start with rubrics. There was no.
Okay, so there were no rubrics, but are there rubrics now?
Yes, so
Can we just,
I'll just explain a little bit. Yeah, our approach is we're fully competency based, and we use that platform called Lift. So rubrics are built within the system, but it always starts with the competencies, the projects from there, and that's how in terms of, we don't have packets per se that we hand out. Everything is on that electronic platform.
Called Lift, you said?
Yep, L-I-F-T.
L-I-F-T. Okay, I put it in the chat. All right, folks, I hate to cut it short, but we are going to have a Q&A at the end, okay? So we're all going to come back for Q&A at the end, but I want to make sure our other three speakers have a chance. And if you have a question about clean energy jobs and that work, which is amazing work at Solar One, please put your question in the chat. I'd like to ask Sarah to put a link to her website information in the chat for everyone. And at this time, I'm very excited to introduce our next three speakers, which will be Deborah Ellen Glickstein from New York City Kids Rise, talking to you about building financial assets for the future. Then we're going to have Stacy McCoy Prime talking about creativity. That's all I'm going to say. Hold on for all three of these talks. They're going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to wrap up with Sam Tumolo, I hope I'm saying that right, Making it Home with NYC Neighbors. Sam is from the New York Hall of Science. And if you've done any hands-on projects at home or like to do more, Sam's got you covered. Okay, I'd like to welcome Deborah Ellen to the stage. There she is. Deborah Ellen, it is all yours. For you viewers out there, we'd love to hear your questions. There will be brief Q&A at the end. Please let us know. Okay, Deborah Ellen, all set.
Great, just sharing. Great. I'd like all of you to close your eyes as I take you back in time before our current reality.
Picture Meet the Teacher Night at the beginning of the school year for a new class of kindergartners. Some of you may have led these events yourselves as a teacher, principal, or parent coordinator. You may have attended one or more of these for your own children. If you haven't had the pleasure, just picture a school auditorium filled with dozens of energetic 5-year-olds, parents and relatives juggling papers and stickers and crayons and toys, and a principal trying to get the room's attention on a microphone that she swears was working 10 minutes ago, but is now glitching out just when tech support has left the building. Now, imagine at this Meet the Teacher night, the principal announces that every kindergartner starting in this school will automatically get an investment account for college and career training with the first $100 already in it, and that their family, their school, and their community will work together to build the assets in these accounts so that every child in this room, regardless of how much money they have in the bank today or their immigration status, will have a real financial foundation to pursue their dreams 13 plus years from now. What does that mean for those students and families? What does that mean for their entire school community? Over the past 3 years, NYC Kids Rise has partnered with the families, schools, and communities of New York City School District 30 and Queens to make sure that that vision is a reality through the Save for College program. Today, I want to give you a glimpse of what a school year looks like for the Save for College program. Let's go back to Meet the Teacher Night. In the fall of 2017, we launched the program at the Meet Your Teacher Nights across the 39 district and charter elementary schools in School District 30. At these events, as I mentioned, parents learn that their children will be automatically enrolled in the program and receive an NYC Scholarship account later that fall, unless they opt out. These accounts are invested in a 529 plan, which is a tax advantage investment account specifically created to help families save for post-secondary education. In some parts of School District 30, just 1 out of every 92 kindergartners had a 529 account before the program launched. That means you'd have to look in 5 different classrooms to find 1 child with an account. And that's compared to about half of the kindergartners, or 1 out of 2, in higher income neighborhoods in New York City. Today, because of the automatic opt-out enrollment process we have set up in partnership with the Department of Education, about 95% of kindergartners, first and second graders across this extremely diverse school district have a 529. So let's go to January, fast forward. In January, once the opt-out process has ended and the new kindergarten student scholarship accounts have been opened, school communities come together to celebrate New York City Scholarship Month. District 30 Superintendent, Dr. Phil Composto, decided to launch NYC Scholarship Month as an opportunity for every school in his district to lead events and activities where families would get support to activate their children's new accounts online and see for the very first time the savings set aside for their children's future. For him and all the principals and parent coordinators who helped come up with this idea, these accounts have become a tool for schools to promote college and career-going culture from an early age. In fact, research shows that a child with a dedicated college savings account is 3 times more likely to attend college and more than 4 times more likely to graduate. Just having something set aside for the future promotes college-going expectations for both students and their families. Last NYC Scholarship Month at Voice Charter School, Principal Headley and his team hosted multiple events over the course of January where families activated their accounts and decorated a money tree poster, which you can see here. The poster hangs in their school hallway to represent the savings their families are building together. They already have almost $60,000 in that school community. These universal accounts also provide a way for communities to drive additional funds directly in children's savings for higher education, and we call these community scholarships, one of my favorite parts of the project. To give you one example, last February, 2 local churches hosted a concert for college as part of the Black History Month to raise money for accounts of students in 8 schools in their community, including Voice, PS 17, and others. That evening, nearly 1,000 community members gathered in the auditorium at Long Island City High School for a gospel concert to celebrate their community's collective work to support their children. The concert raised more than $20,000 in ticket sales, which went directly into the accounts of about 1,000 kindergartners and first graders. Each student got another $18.86. More than the money, the concert was an expression of community support. After the event, we sent a postcard to every family that received the deposit with photos from concert and information about how they could activate their account if they hadn't yet. Principals told us that several parents came to their school with a postcard in hand and asked how could they get started. So far, communities have contributed more than $400,000 towards these accounts, and some second graders in the lowest income areas of our school district already have about $500. Another example of how school communities have come together is on 529 Day, or May 29th, and this is just around the corner. In our world, it's like a real national holiday, 529 Day. The Save for College program includes a customized standards-aligned financial education curriculum that teachers can incorporate into their classroom lessons starting in kindergarten. So on 529 Day, teachers and parent coordinators at many schools invite families to participate in one of the lessons. At PS 152 in Woodside, parents worked with their kids to create learning leaves, showing what they want to be when they grow up. They displayed these leaves at the front of the school, showing their kindergartners' dreams for their futures. And these are just some of the more than 600 workshops and events that schools and community partners have hosted over the past 3 years. So far, more than 1,500 families across this district have opened their own 529 or bank account to save through this platform, and they have already saved more than $1.7 million in these accounts. That is on top of the $1.6 million that NYC Kids Rise and the community have contributed. So by the time a kindergarten student reaches their stepping up ceremony, they have received the message from many different angles that their community is behind them. We honor that schools are the center of the neighborhood, and they're also a key part of the broader ecosystem. That is why we are working to bring together families, neighbors, businesses, community-based organizations, civic and religious organizations to both build concrete financial assets for every child's future and reinforce their expectations of success. This crisis has laid bare the consequences of the profound income and wealth disparities in our city and the need to invest more deeply in the financial security of every family. It has shown us how thin family safety nets really are through no fault of their own, and has also shown the immense importance and power of communities coming together to support one another, which is often the only safety net that families have. That financial foundation and community support are both critical to making sure our kids continue to have options for their future despite the current crisis. And these are at the very heart of what we've been working to build with the Save for College program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I really appreciate that. And I'm turning it right over to Stacy Prime. Welcome, Stacy.
Hi, Roger. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Let's get started. So my lightning talk is on creativity, an essential skill to survive and thrive today and tomorrow. I'm the founder of Upstream Design Lab, a school design consultant and leadership coach, and a former high school principal and teacher. My work has been featured on the Today Show, NPR, New York Times, Daily News, and also, like many of you with children, I'm running a makeshift homeschool right now. And I'm sad to say that my homeschool is getting mixed reviews. So my lightning talk today is on creativity. We're going to go through very quickly what is creativity, common misconceptions, why creativity is essential, how to become more creative, and where to go to get more resources. What is creativity? Creativity is the act of turning new and imaginative ideas into reality. Creativity is characterized by the ability to perceive the world in new ways, to find hidden patterns, to make connections between seemingly unrelated phenomena, and to generate solutions. In times of mass disruption, creativity surges. Let's look at some of my favorite examples of people generating creative solutions to the challenge of PPE and social distancing. So we have this guy here who's using a lot of materials very creatively. There's also this one, which is pretty scrappy with her dish sponge and rubber band. And then finally, this guy who is coming up with a very creative way to social distance at the store. The note says, if you can't read it, if you can smell my fart, we are not far enough apart. This is everything. So creativity is not an innate trait that you are either born with or not born with. Creativity is not just art or music class. Creativity is not just a magical aha moment that strikes randomly. Creativity is not a skill that is just used in creative fields by authors, artists, and musicians. Creativity is a skill that anyone can learn and develop through practice and guidance. It is a mindset and approach to thinking that you can apply in every class. It is fun but hard work that requires persistence and focus, and it is a skill used in every discipline. Why is creativity essential? Creativity is essential to our survival as a species. Creative problem solving is how we will end this pandemic and how we will fight this novel virus. We know empirically that creativity pays off. In a 30-year longitudinal study, children with higher scores on the TTCT, which is a test that measures creativity as defined by divergent thinking, were more successful and more likely to become entrepreneurs, college presidents, doctors, authors, and so on. People can be most creative when 3 conditions are met. 1, that they have domain knowledge. 2, that they have creative processes. And 3, that they are intrinsically motivated around that topic to be creative. So schools are designed, in my experience, schools are designed to build domain knowledge. And most of their systems and structures do so. And 2 areas that are not so developed in many schools are creative processes and intrinsic motivation. So I'm going to go into very briefly what those are and then end with resources for how to bring both of those into your schools. So for the 3 creative processes, even though there are more than 3, there's 3 that I want to focus on. Divergent thinking, which is generating many ideas. Emergent thinking, which is exploring and comparing ideas. And convergent thinking, which is narrowing down and selecting one idea. For intrinsic motivation, what I'm talking about is play, purpose, and passion. When you experience play, purpose, and passion, you get to that flow state, the optimal psychological experience with your creativity pours out of you and you lose the sense of time. There are no boundaries on your imagination. That's when you're going to be most creative. What does this mean for educators in schools? The key takeaway that I want listeners to think about is creativity is an essential, arguably the essential skill that is transferable to any context and will empower students to survive and thrive in ever-changing circumstances. Educators in schools can best support student creativity by 1, explicitly teaching and practicing creative processes, engaging students with tools and opportunities to develop divergent thinking, emergent thinking, and convergent thinking. And 2, tapping into students' intrinsic motivation, providing students with multiple low-stakes opportunities to play and to explore their interests and define their purpose. So for next steps, I'm going to post my email here in the chat, and I hope that you will email me because I can send you some downloadable resources, because I always really appreciate when people give a talk if they explain a what and a how, or a what and a why, they also provide the how. So email me if you're interested in the how, and I can send you a year's worth of creative exercises to do in your schools, and then also creative thinking tools that you can use in your professional development, in classrooms, and in your personal lives as well. Thank you so much.
One second. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Sam. I'm a coordinator in the Makerspace at the New York Hall of Science. The Makerspace is a programmatic space in the museum geared towards providing educational experiences in different forms of hands-on making. So many of our workshops are geared around introducing new skills, often in the form of new tools or materials, and then kind of letting the visitors take it from there and make it their own. So we want everyone who enters the space to feel empowered to make their own choices, form their own ideas, and develop new skills while creating something that means something to them. Nice Side Neighbors is a community outreach program that provides pathways out of poverty in Corona, Queens through hands-on STEM educational opportunities. We offer a variety of workshops in the museum for these families, including woodworking, textile design, tech-based programs, and more. It's gotten to the point where these kids are so comfortable in the space, they come downstairs with an idea in their heads, get their goggles and gloves, ask us for whatever tools and materials they need, and usually don't even want to do the project we had planned for that day. They are just so excited about what they were going to make. And this is great. We want this to be a community space where the kids feel empowered and trusted, and it's been really important to us that we try to continue doing this digitally. So unfortunately, this area of Queens has been hit very hard by COVID-19, and a lot of our families are struggling right now. So the Nice Side Neighbors team has been quickly pivoting to digital workshops and resources in the hope that we can still provide these STEM educational opportunities and creative outlets, even though it's going to be from behind a screen. So this has been done so far through a series of bilingual making at home videos and live workshops for these families. These workshops are geared around strengthening critical thinking skills by introducing new purposes and meaning for objects and materials that they already have around their house. So we've been trying to identify both their interests and needs and intentionally design workshops around that. So we don't want people to feel like they have to go to the store or buy new things, and most of the projects have been kind of geared around either materials that they already have around their house or recycled materials. And then things like tape, scissors, paper. And we've done several workshops around recycled paper and cardboard from like cereal or packing boxes, as you'll see here. We tried to make these as customizable as possible and open-ended so people can adjust depending on which materials they have. So some of our projects have included wall-mounted ball runs, bookbinding, flip books, and one of my personal favorites, which was these cases to display their collections and favorite objects. So I really like this project because not only does it use repurposed materials, but it gets the kids kind of talking about and thinking about the objects that they have that mean something to them, and they can build a mini museum of themselves. So for these videos, we typically record them on a Monday, edit them during the week, and then post them on a private Nice Side Neighbors Facebook page every Friday. And because it's posted on this Facebook page, there isn't a lot of direct interaction between us and the families. So we get occasional photos or messages about their projects and the things they made, like these ones. The one we did was an upcycled grocery bag from a t-shirt. But these interactions weren't quite creating the community space the same way that our in-person workshops were. So we decided to meet as a team and begin thinking of ways to make these digital workshops feel more interactive and face-to-face. So we reached out to 10 of the families that we see the most in Makerspace and asked if they were interested in doing live workshops every week, and they were. So we began thinking about the best way to do this and ended up going with Zoom. And it took several weeks to figure out the best way to communicate with them and get everybody downloaded on the app and comfortable with the process. And we are still figuring a lot of this out and tweaking it. But as we started thinking about the curriculum for the workshops, it became clear that the museum was going to be closed for a lot longer than we initially thought. And while there's so much value to using recycled and household materials like we had been for our recorded videos, we felt like the spirit of the makerspace and providing access to new tools and skills and processes was something that was missing from our digital presence. So if this was going to be a long-term thing, we wanted to be able to provide families with new projects and experiences that they could do at home. Luckily, we were able to reutilize some of our budget money. And we ordered about 8 weeks of project materials, and we binned them up and started thinking about which tools and materials would allow them to kind of continue developing these creative problem-solving skills during the time of COVID. And fortunately, since it's a neighborhood program, we were able to drop off the bins at the students' homes. So some of the projects that we're working on are plaster casting, paper circuits, stamp making, and game design, and items in the kits that are non-consumable, like hot glue guns, silicone molds, and cardboard cutters are going to be collected at the end of the 8 weeks. And then the consumable items are theirs to keep, along with everything they made. And it's our goal to continue this into the fall and kind of schedule 4-week projects worth of workshops at a time in a bin. So we've only had one session so far, but it was really exciting to see the kids face-to-face again, and it was clear that they were very excited too. And while we're still kind of fine-tuning this process, we did an icebreaker last week and had the students draw parts of the museum that they missed the most. And this one really stood out to us. So this is drawn by the student Alicia, who comes with her best friend Alina every single day to the makerspace. And they know how to use pretty much every tool and equipment we have and are familiar with the staff. And seeing this drawing of hers in the art room, which is us, ready for anything with their blank pages, just kind of made us really excited. And it's clear that these kids see this work as valuable as we do, and really inspired all of us to kind of keep going with it as we fine-tune the process. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam. I'd like to invite all of our speakers to come back up on stage to have some Q&A. We have a few minutes, but I have the authority invested in me to extend us a few minutes past 12 if we need to. So we can do that. Viewers, we'd love to hear from you. We Stacy Prime here from our Design Lab. We've got Deborah Ellen from New York City Kids Rise. And we have Sam Tumolo, you just heard, from New York Hall of Science. We also have Sarah Pidgeon from Solar One, and we have our team from the Greater Lawrence STEAM Academy, who all spoke during the last hour. So first of all, thank you to all of you for your talks. Really appreciate that. Doing a lot in a short period of time and sharing a lot with our audience. Audience, viewers, please share your appreciation. Feel free to copy my emojis there, whatever you need to do to let people know. But yeah, I'd love to kick things off and just kind of throw a general question out to all of you. Does anyone want to say an additional word or two? I know you might have mentioned a little bit in your talk about how you've adapted to this virtual environment. What are some particular maybe lessons or challenges that have come up that you've overcome in our current situation? Anyone can go. I don't answer all at once. Just asking any particular successes or challenges in adapting to our current situation and where your programs are right now.
Definitely for our program, it was getting the kids online, getting them internet in their homes. A lot of, some of our students really struggle with that, and connecting with them in meaningful ways. Really difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. I'm sure that resonates with some people where connectivity has definitely been an issue in some places, in some situations.
I think also for our, for our program, student voice and choice is always a really important part of the way that we try to design a lot of the learning experiences, but all the more so when students are away from us and we can't be next to them all the time doing the work. their investment in their own project and them having a clear voice in development of the project that they want to do is a part of what gets investment and buy-in from students. And so it's become all the more important to make sure that we're emphasizing that part.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you, Tim. Anderlyn, as a student representative, I see your outline. I think we can hear you. Would you like to add anything about your student perspective on these projects? Okay, we might not have Anderlyn right now, but if you get your audio,
I think I hear her.
For me and my partner, were really.
Just speak up, Anderlyn, please.
Shoot.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Just speak loud and clear. Thank you. Yes, we can hear you and see you.
For me and my partner, our struggle that we had was we're trying to make a post. We try to make our post daily. So what we do is that we have a Google Doc where we take our info because sometimes we're busy with doing all things that homework and things that teacher posts online to get our credit. So we try every day or every time we have time free to post things and get the information for we can summarize to make.
I think Anderlyn was talking about her Global Solve Now project. She and Jennifer made an Instagram account to get important information out to their group.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Everything about what Schools of Ken does is focused on supporting schools to transform and be successful with creative and real world learning programs. So Stacy and Deborah Ellen, I'd love for you, if you wanted to talk about any specific experiences you've had working with schools that have really stuck out in your mind, to kind of build on anything you might have said in your talk.
Sure. Actually, one of the things that I've seen done, which has been really interesting, is Casey, who's working with Big Picture Learning, is doing like virtual internship experiences that are structured as like there's a client, which is a business or an organization that needs specific projects done that were on the back burner. And then there's a mentor, which is like someone else that can volunteer their time to work with students to take them, like to work on the project. And then students from different schools across New York State that are working in teams to work on these real world projects for an actual business or organization. I just think that's a really brilliant way to kind of leverage a lot of different people right now. So we are a client and we have students working on a magazine for us. So it'll be really cool to see what comes out of that.
Okay, so did the student school industry partnership with a nonprofit. Please mute your background. Thank you. If you have any background noise. Thanks, Stacy. And Stacy, I want to pivot there to Deborah Ellen, and then Sarah, give you a heads up. We're going to pose a similar question to you on how you're seeing the connections with schools. Deborah Ellen, did you want to say anything?
Well, I can't say enough wonderful things about the school district and the schools that we have the privilege of supporting and working with. I am just beyond impressed with what they have been able to do and transform in such a short amount of time to remote learning, how quickly families actually got the devices. It was just been very impressive to watch. Just very quickly, I mean, one of the things that is, again, core to what we do is it's around financial education and financial empowerment. But if families can't eat or families don't have able to pay basic bills, like what can really be done? It's hard to think about the long term. So we've been able to work very quickly, and it's only because of the relationships with the schools. We've been able to give out about $1 million in emergency relief gift cards in $150 increments. And so, I mean, it's wonderful that we worked with other partners to raise this money, grateful to all the funders. But what we have seen from the school leadership, how quickly and how helpful we give, we are able to connect them, tell them we had to choose a lottery to figure out what families are able to get this, and how quickly the school leadership, from the secretaries to parent coordinators to principals to the superintendent, have mobilized to make sure that these gift cards got into the hands of families as quickly as possible. It's just been very, very special.
Great. Yeah, I'd like to ask, in a similar vein to Sarah, have you seen the same levels of interest and excitement from school leaders about these opportunities for clean energy careers and training? And then also on the industry side, I mean, is there excitement on both sides?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've been engaging with industry partners as well as school leadership, Central New York City Department of Education leadership, and really trying to make sure that we're still able to access careers. Obviously, there's been a lot of disruption to the solar industry and to the construction industry here in New York City, but it is coming back. I can't have my windows open right now because of the construction site behind my apartment that is live. And so I think one of the things that's exciting is that despite this, the clean energy sector is still continuing to grow in New York City. We just spoke to a hiring partner yesterday about potentially interviewing some of our students for jobs starting this summer, doing building operation and maintenance and energy efficiency work. And these are graduating seniors. So I would just say right now, one of our big areas of focus is working with the schools that we're in. How can we best support high school seniors who are faced with such a big open-ended, scary situation leaving school right now, particularly folks who are not college bound, and making sure we can leverage our relationships to get those folks into jobs.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. And maybe I kind of wrap back around to Greater Lawrence. Greater Lawrence, are there partnerships that you might have that maybe leverage in some way your STEAM programs, partnerships with the communities, and also any interesting things that in terms of how you prepare students for the workforce and that area? Anyway.
Panayota, you want to take that one?
And I was thinking you might want to, because you've done so much work around that recently. But yes, I mean, it's a huge part of what we do. We're trying to build connections with our community.
But I think Marla could probably talk about some of the biotech partnerships that we have, but we have been able to develop some good partnerships with some local companies. Mm-hmm. Marla, why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, so I work really hard at leveraging who I know to try to get to people that might be working at different companies. So we have relationships with Boston Scientific. We have relationships with Pfizer. We also, our program has a relationship built in with MIT. So we have Tufts Medical. So we have these academic and industry side experts that we use as often as possible throughout our projects. So for example, for Boston Scientific, you might think we would focus on the labs there, but we actually focused on their clean tech campus and how they're trying to be carbon neutral by 2035. So that became the focus of study. So we look at all aspects of corporations, not just like, oh, can we get in their lab? It's any group in those companies that will work with us, I will work with them.
Great, thank you. Good. Panayota, was there anything you wanted to add to that? We're good?
That's fine, yeah.
Great, okay. Yeah, and I just want to point out, I don't think that there's a coincidence that you are connecting with clean energy and sustainability there in Massachusetts at the same time that is continuing and taking off, as Sarah was telling us here in New York City. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to be concerned about, but so many reasons to be looking ahead to how things are transforming for all of us. Fantastic. So we're till 10, and I would love to again thank all of you for your preparations and for sharing your amazing talks and programs today, and offering to share your resources too.